Welcome to those who are joining us. We're excited to have you here at our YouthMADE Festival event. The YouthMADE Festival is a global celebration of youth creativity and innovation. My name is Elise Gaynor, and I'm a program director here at Digital Promise, working on the YouthMADE Festival. And so I'm excited to introduce our webinar today and share a little bit more about the festival. So for folks who maybe are unfamiliar with the YouthMADE Festival and why we're here, the YouthMADE Festival is our global celebration of youth creativity and innovation which started on May 5th and is going until May 18th. So we invite you to join us throughout week 2. You can join by sharing content, showcasing student-led work, which includes events like this, whether it's virtual, in person or hybrid. And then you can also add content such as, galleries, blogs, articles, etc., to our YouthMADE Festival directory. And then, of course, you can use that directory to see what people all over the world are doing. So this festival is happening all over the world. People are participating in different ways. And today we're here because we have this wonderful session with students João Pedro and Renzo, who actually couldn't be here today, speaking about how they are using AI to create a tool to teach and learn sign language. And it's going to be moderated by Digital Promise's own Kanu Lee, who is a senior learning experience designer here with us. So I'm going to turn it over to Kanu and João to start the discussion.
All right, thank you, Elise. So my name is João. I speak from Brazil, and I'm basically a student on my gap year, preparing to apply to college. And while I do that, I like to prepare these school projects. So the project that you're going to see today is about sign language and AI, and I'm very excited to share with you guys. Okay, so the name of our project is Gestus. And as Elise said, my friend Renzo couldn't be here today, but I'll be presenting our presentation basically. So if you could one slide, Elise. So the problem that Gestus tries to solve is the access to sign language education in Brazil. And as you can see in the slide, 2 out of each 3 people in Brazil with hearing impairment cannot do not know how to sign in the Brazilian sign language. And that's a huge number. It might not seem like a very relevant problem, and I'll go more deep in that after in the presentation. But if you don't know how to communicate with another human, you're basically excluded from society. So instead of viewing these numbers as don't knowing how to speak, I invite you to viewing them as not be able to interact with our society at all because of a communication issue. Oh, wait.
Sorry about that.
So,
a little technical difficulty. Okay, here we go.
It's fine, it's fine. So our solution is Gestus, which is a learning platform that makes Brazilian Sign Language accessible to everyone. We also call it Libras. And the way you can think of it is as Duolingo, but for sign language is how we like to call it. So our main differential is having interactive lessons on the website. That means that you can perform some sign and the website will be able to process it and see if it matches another sign. And that allows us to create like little games that you can play. There's this really cool memory game that we're designing that you basically have to repeat a list of signs that is like your grocery list. So for example, you sign banana and then you sign banana and apple, and you have to repeat that until you can keep a streak of signs. So that's an example of how we are envisioning Gestus, this powerful learning platform, which is also fun to use, to invite other people who are not deaf to use it too, because it does not make sense to only the deaf people know how to sign in sign language. The ideal environment is an environment where everyone knows, so that there isn't a bridge between hearing and deaf people. And this is how the AI processing works. So there's your webcam that is extracting your video, and from your video, we extract some body landmarks, which is like how the computer sees your skeleton. So you can see in the image on the up side of the screen where it's like a hand, and every single one of those landmarks means coordinate to the AI, and the AI processes those landmarks through and that AI is trained by our community fed database, which I'll talk about later. And the output is some text. That could be a sign, that could be a sentence. Currently, we're doing only signs because we are at early stage, but our vision is that we'll be able to perform text translation, translate a full sentence in sign language to a full sentence in Brazilian Portuguese. So this is a bit of how Gestus works. So if you see, that's a picture of the letter A in sign language. So if I say in the Brazilian sign language, I think it's also like this in ASL too. So that means A. And if you can go on slide, that's exactly how the computer sees the image. It extracts the landmarks, and it does not see the hand. It just sees those landmarks. And if you go to the next one, so what we do is we basically generate and capture a lot of those samples of the same sign that we want to capture and train the AI model to recognize. And if you go one slide, please, the AI will basically want to learn that this pattern of landmarks and coordinates is going to mean the letter A, and that applies to every single sign. Okay, and this is a demo, one of our first demos, in which I'm there basically signing the word hi using the alphabet, and I basically send the button send, and in this demo, the website is talking to an AI like a LLM, more similar to ChatGPT, which responded me with the word hello, and the video shows that the LLM basically signs each letter. So it's basically like a conversation between me and some kind of ChatGPT, very low level, but with sign language, with each letter being a sign in Brazilian Sign Language. And during that process, I realized that it was very easy for me to learn the alphabet by just testing the website, because I had to test if the letters were working and the AI model was capturing my hand properly. So in that process, I ended up memorizing the whole Brazilian Sign Language alphabet, and I was like, maybe this shouldn't be used for translating from sign language to text only. This can be used to teach people sign language too. And if you can imagine, I suppose that the ideal future is a future now where people are intermediating their conversations with a computer, but in a future where they don't need any computer to talk or to communicate, and in the case of communication between deaf and hearing people. So that's our goal, to educate as many people as possible with sign language. And here is our earliest version of the website. I'll try to show a demo here later, but as you can see, we're already starting to implement this idea of signing a sign that the website gives you to. So there is Renzo trying to sign the word banheiro. He actually signed espelho, as you can see right now, I think. Takes a while to process. Sweet. Okay, so the website returned the word espelho mainly because he basically signed the word espelho na banheira, so he got it wrong. And that's our contribution page, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide. So we face some bottlenecks, as you can tell by the slide. The first one, if we can pass, is data. As you saw before, we need a lot of data to train the AI model. In fact, we used hundreds of images, more than 300 of images of hands per letter. And when it comes to videos, which mean words instead of letters, you know, when you sign espelho, you don't like sign each letter of the word. You sign a whole sign that's going to represent the word specifically. So that's a whole new thing to explore, right? There aren't many data sets available for Brazilian Sign Language, neither other kinds of sign language. I mean, some are available for the German Sign Language, some for the American Sign Language, but not so many for the Brazilian Sign Language. In fact, the richest data set that we've managed to use had only 20 signs, and each sign had like 50 samples. So data is a huge bottleneck in this case. And also, there's the regionalism problem because sign language varies a lot from place to place. Like even between nearby cities, there could be a huge variation in signs. So that's something else. And it's also related to data, right? Like depending on the data that you use to train the AI model, it's going to recognize different signs. So the solution that we came up for that is open source community run database. And the way that it works is that teachers and people fluent in sign language can contribute with videos that correspond to given signs. We're also using live transmissions from TV videos like news reports and this kind of stuff, which have some kind of translation in the quarter there that we can use to correlate with the words that are being pronounced at the given time on the video. And those interpreters and teachers who speak sign language can also annotate the data and add new videos to the database so that we can have a good data set to train our AI models. In this way, we are also attacking the regionalism problem because if many people from different parts of Brazil sign that sign, the AI is going to learn that there is different ways of saying a word. It's a similar thing with like our common language, you know, English and Portuguese in spoken languages, they have synonyms. So that those different signs, those different regionalisms are basically synonyms to the AI, but in sign language, of course. And that's basically it. That's our website and our email. And yeah, excited to see if you guys have any questions. I know Kinu is going to ask me some questions, but if you guys also have any questions, feel free to send it as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, João, for your presentation. I feel like that was such a fascinating application of AI that's coming from youth. So yeah, that was great. Thanks so much. So
Thank
I
you.
guess, yeah. And in this next part of our presentation, I will be reviewing a little bit about Digital Promise's AI literacy framework. Let me pull up those slides right now. Okay, here we go. Great. And like Elise introduced earlier, I'm Kanu. I'm a senior learning experience designer at Digital Promise, and part of my work here is around our AI literacy framework. And so I'm going to share a little bit more about this and make some connections to Joao's project. And so I'll start off with our definition. And at Digital Promise, we define AI literacy as the skills to understand, evaluate, and use AI systems and tools. And I think really central to this framework is understand, use, and evaluate, like I just said, which is shown by these bidirectional arrows, which are intentionally bidirectional because we believe each component strengthens and builds upon each other. And I think we saw each of these components in Joao's project and in his work. And so again, to sort of review how we define our framework, I'm going to play a short video. Actually, I might have to reshare because I don't think I shared audio for that. So let me go ahead and do that really quick. Here we go. Let me find my Zoom. Okay, sorry, 1 second. Some technical difficulties here. Share. Oh, actually, at least it's not giving me the option to share audio. Let's
Well,
see.
it might play then because I never shared my sound when we
Oh,
tested. So I think just
okay.
try it. Yeah.
Okay, let's try it out anyway then. Okay, great. Could you hear that? No, didn't work. Okay. Well, I can just talk through it then instead of playing the video, and I'll share the link for the video. Okay, great. So, like I said about the framework, it really revolves around these three core components of use, understand, evaluate. For the use case, we define using as interacting with AI, which might just be um, interacting with apps like Google Maps or talking to Siri or any of those types of products where you might not even realize where AI is infused in the algorithm. Creating with AI, we sort of define as generating content with an LLM or generative AI, like developing images or text through prompting. And then finally, we define problem solving with AI, which is sort of includes more technical components. Maybe you're training an AI model. And so, yeah, I think with Zhao's project, we really saw problem solving with AI come to life. And so I think around this, we sort of have two questions. The first one is really around the problem itself. So wondering if you could share more about what motivated you to solve a problem around Libras, the Brazilian Sign Language, and why was this important to solve for either you or your community?
Yeah, sure. So with most problems, you see the problem first, and then you come after a solution, right? But I have most of my projects were like that too. But specifically with this one, I kind of went to the solution first because at the time I was studying AI and I wanted to use for a competition. I just wanted to know how it works, if I could build some project with it. And I was just searching up possible applications for AI. And it's a very broad field, so you can imagine how many possible applications I could pick. But then I came across the sign language application, and I found it was pretty cool. It was after researching a bit, I found all the problems that surround the lack of sign language education and everything. Sorry. So yeah, it was basically the other way around. And then after I started building the project, I got in contact with some sign language communities. I mean, some deep communities which got me into the world of sign language. They even gave me a sign, like my sign basically is this one because of the little thing that I have on my, forgot the word in English, but for this, but like in this part of my face. And then it's because of my smile. So that means João in sign language. Um, and yeah, it was. I basically had the contact with the communities after I did the project, and I got to visit them. I got to know how they learn and all the problems that people who don't know sign language have. So yeah, the motivation on the social side came later, and now it's even more important for me because I'm involved with the community, but I also have a very deep interest for AI and technology as a whole.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That's really cool to hear how you got to learn from the community, or even how through the project you got to memorize the alphabet. So it's really bringing you in, and really addressing a really important issue around accessibility and diversity. So really, really great to hear more about that. I think we'd also love to learn more about the sort of programming and technical side. So how you gained the skills to train an AI model. Did that come from a general self-led interest in computer science? Did you take courses at school? Did educators help you? How did you start working with Renzo? Yeah, we'd love to hear how you got more deep into the technicality.
Yeah, perfect. So when I started learning about AI, I already knew how to program. That was something that I was always interested for. I didn't know exactly if I wanted to do CS, but I knew that I enjoyed programming, just projects that I found were cool. And yeah, so I had this background from since kind of 12 years old. I was playing with my computers and taking courses on like Khan Academy and free resources on the internet. YouTube was also a great helper for that. But specifically for machine learning and AI, I remember that I had some guidance from this mentorship program that I'm at, which is the Knowledge Society, TKS, but they don't teach us AI. They basically gives us a framework to follow. So I basically follow the same path as before, which was taking courses on Udacity and seeing taking some intro courses, see how it works on a higher level, and then going after YouTube videos to go into the specifics of of everything that I wanted to learn. And it was also a very smooth process because I was not learning like the whole field of AI. I was learning AI specifically for sign language recognition. So I didn't have to export all the algorithms. I just explored the ones that I knew that were intersecting with the problem. So I wouldn't say that I know machine learning as a whole. I have some experience with it, mostly because of that learning path that I took.
Yeah, I think you're highlighting a really great point about AI. There's so much out there and there's so many applications. And so yeah, it's cool that you found
Yeah.
this stream that was interesting to you. How did you get into programming when you were 12? Were you just always interested in computers? Or I mean, it sounds like most of your journey was pretty like self-led. So curious about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think it was basically because of Khan Academy. When I was like 10 years old, I used to study and review math topics on Khan Academy just to get good grades. And then one time I was like browsing the website and I saw there was this programming session. And at the time they had this really cool course that taught you programming through animations. So you were basically creating a rectangle and making it walk around the screen and bounce it in the walls and do all sorts of animations through code. And I found that was really cool. Especially because I think I'm a very visual person. I like to see like mind maps and diagrams and graphics, and all of that was like um, was intersected with programming, and I didn't know that before. So yeah, it was very cool to explore programming through animations, and that actually became a project of its own, which I shared in the last year's YouthMADE Festival. I think Elise remembers very well of the SCORN project, which is like a website that you can learn science and math concepts through animations, which is a direct consequence of the way that I learn programming.
Wow, that's amazing how a start from Khan Academy led you all the way to do something like this, where you're training your own AI model, which, not even many adults can say they can do. So that's really inspiring as well.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for sharing
Yeah.
more. I
Can
think
I
I'll
just
dip.
add one thing?
Yeah, of course, of course.
I forgot to mention, AI was also a great helper to learn AI itself. So I use a lot of
Mm.
ChatGPT and all the best LLM available out there to like design the roadmaps. So I think that's worth mentioning because I don't think enough people realize how powerful AI is for learning new stuff. Like you can have basically any specialist, any kind of specialist. You cannot, of course, you cannot um take their responses as 100% valid, but you can have at least some guidance that is very hard to have by yourself. So yeah, ChatGPT was also a great helper to learn.
Yeah, that's actually a really great transition into sort of understanding and evaluating AI. I think that was a really great point to elevate that you were using the ChatGPT and other LLMs to support your own learning and development. And you even just mentioned how like the you can't take it as 100% valid, and that kind of evaluation piece is there of your own kind of background knowledge and that you're building up your thinking. So yeah, can talk a little bit more about that, but I also wanted to share with understanding and evaluating AI, the way that we define how that becomes actionable is through these 6 practices. So I'll quickly kind of review them. The first is around algorithmic thinking, abstraction, decomposition. So kind of thinking about computational thinking skills. We have data analysis and inference, which I think you mentioned a lot through your project. Data privacy and security, digital communication and expression, ethics and impact, information and disinformation. So these 6 practices are sort of trying to make understanding and evaluating sort of routines that you can apply in different contexts with AI systems and tools. And so I think with your presentation, you shared a little bit about, like you said, we just mentioned using LLMs and sort of evaluating the information or misinformation in the outputs. I think, you also spoke about the landmark data, and potentially that's a way to support data privacy, or even how you sort of pivoted from developing a platform for translation and instead making it more for learning, and so that it would have greater impact. So I think, again, a lot of these practices came to life in your project. Was wondering if you want to share a little bit more about any of those things. I know that was kind of a lot. You could pick one, you could pick multiple, but yeah, if anything feels relevant that you want to share, feel free.
Sure. I especially like the first 2, like algorithm thinking and data analysis. And I think very like tangible use case for that in my project would be right at the beginning when I was first learning AI and testing, making some side projects just to see how it worked. And there was this time that I tried to use a data set that was very limited. I mean, all data sets on sign language are limited by their own, but I didn't know about this technique that you can use to produce more samples from a single data set, which is data augmentation, right? So you basically take like a sample and then you apply some random variation to it. You change the position a bit of the signer, you change the height, you change the rotation. So through that strategy, you can like expand your data set by a lot. And that strategy was exactly what made my AI work like 1000% better, especially because of data scarcity. So I think it takes some data analysis to come to this conclusion, because you have to look at the data set, you have to look at like successful AI models and how many samples they use to reach a certain level of accuracy. And you have to implement some kind of algorithm thinking to how to integrate that strategy to your model, because if you're not careful, you can just cause some very intense variation. And instead of having like a skeleton, you could have like the dots from the hand could just be all around the screen. As it was happening at some point, like I was performing too much data augmentation to the point where the AI couldn't understand anything from the data. Like it didn't even make sense because the random fluctuations were too intense. So yeah, I think those 2 were very essential in that part of the process.
Great, thanks for sharing. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to using ChatGPT or large language models, and how did you evaluate whether you use the outputs, and like you said, it's not always accurate. So yeah, how can you talk through about the process of using it to support your work, but also checking that it's accurate?
Yeah, sure. So the way that I learned, as I said, was through project-based learning. And basically, it was very inspired by, again, the mentorship program that I am participating, the Knowledge Society. And they taught us to like make projects and learn things as you go. So that kind of conflicts a bit with the largest part of the learning resources out there, which is like more focused on taking classes and learning everything from the ground up in order to like only then take the specifics and learn specifically what you want to do. But the way that I was taught was like to reverse this process and work backwards to learn what you need to do. So Oh yeah, so with ChatGPT in this case, like since most of the data in the internet follows like a conventional pathway of learning all the basics and then narrowing down, like I had to tune the outputs a lot to know specifically what I had to learn and what I didn't need to learn, because as long as I prompted and tried to make the ChatGPT to give me some advice that was more project oriented, it would always try to give me the most comfortable pathway, which would always prepare me for what would come next, but that wasn't exactly what I needed. So at the beginning, I ended up losing a lot of time, like learning stuff that I didn't even need to. But once I like understood that more and knew that I couldn't take the outputs 100% as valid, for my purposes, then I was able to like pick, like just look at the output and pick what I could use and what was unuseful at the time.
That's great. Thanks again so much for sharing more about how your project came to life. I feel like it's really amazing work, and I think really showcases how youth are able to really pursue something really meaningful and impactful for your community, and just even how much you've learned through this process. So that's really great. Yeah, and I think we'll wrap up the questions that I have and see if there's any attendee or audience questions. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or in the Q&A. Or not sure if there's unmute options. But yeah, I think Celeste, April, or Murray, if you have any questions for Zhao or any questions about the AI literacy framework, please feel to share. Okay, great. We have a question from April. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, or yeah, there's our Q&A page, but I'll stop sharing for now. Okay, and April's question is, what advice do you have for other students who are interested in designing solutions to problems in their lives and communities, but don't know how to get started? So I'll put this question in the chat as well, so you can read it over. Yeah.
Okay,
it says here that Elise would like to answer this question.
Oh,
Would you like to
sorry.
jump in?
I'm just marking that it will be answered live. But the question is for
Okay.
you, so go ahead.
Okay. Can we, if you want to jump into, like, that would be completely fine if you want to add something. But I would say that is, I mean, first of all, I think you should pick a problem that you're very passionate about, and just work backwards and learn everything you need to learn in order to solve it, you know? So, like, this exactly wasn't the case for me because I wasn't involved with sign language communities, deep communities at all in the first place. This was more of like a reverse engineering, but I mean, the other experiences that I had with like picking a problem and working backwards to solve it were way more efficient, was way more effective because with one single problem in mind, you can think of different solutions and different approaches to it. But if you get attached to a solution and if it's not that effective and there are other solutions that will solve better the problem, then like you're being efficient. So yeah, just pick a problem that you're very passionate about and then like try to learn everything or anything that you need to solve it. That could be programming, that could be biology, that could be pretty much anything. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I don't know if I have much more to add. I think everything you shared throughout the course of this webinar, I think is great advice. Like you really pursued your passion around programming since you were 12. So I think that's really important to have space and to sort of build and refine the things that you are interested in. So I think that's something that I heard from you that really paid off in the end. And so, yeah, I feel like if you're interested in something, like go for it, like seek out those resources, build up that skill set, whether it's programming or anything else. Like could be woodworking. Like I don't know. You never know how these skills could be applied to a solution later, right? And so even like you said, I think solutions that you or problems that you see throughout your own life or your community within your family, I feel like that's a great place to start because it's you have a more personal connection to it. But even like with your case, how it was sort of reverse engineered, how you had the skill and then you wanted to apply the skill to something that was meaningful. um, I think the fact that you actually reached out to the sign language community and built a relationship with them is also really important, right? Because when you're
Yeah.
designing solutions, you don't want it to be assumed that you know better than the community that's dealing with it, right? So I think working with the being in partnership with the community directly is really great too. So I think, yeah, things that you were already showcasing.
Yeah, that
um,
was a very great thing to add, like just get in contact with the people that you're solving the problem for. That's also because they're going to be able to provide the perspective from someone who is suffering from the problem, right? So yeah, I think that's a very meaningful addition. Oh, and also leverage AI. Like if you don't know how to, like what solutions you can come up with to tackle a problem, like ChatGPT is a thing. You can just brainstorm with it and come up with all the sorts of crazy ideas, right?
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. I think we'll maybe wait for any other questions that might come up. Maybe give it a minute. But yeah, otherwise, at least should we move on to the community awards?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's go to
Okay.
the next section.
Perfect. All right. Let me share that.
So I wanted to let everyone know that we are excited to have another round of our YouthMADE Festival Community Awards. And these are basically community-powered celebrations and kudos of student creators and changemakers who are presenting or sharing content at the YouthMADE Festival. So if you would like to nominate João and Renzo, or any other students who are participating in the YouthMADE Festival, you can use this link, which I will also drop in the chat. And you can nominate them or any other students that are participating. And then we'll be announcing the community awardees on June 5th. The deadline to fill out the form will be May 27th. And you can go to the next slide. I also wanted to invite you all to continue joining us this week for the rest of the YouthMADE Festival. And you can do that by adding your own event or your own content to the directory by using the form at youthmade.org. And then you can also attend and view content and events from other students and educators all around the world. I'm going to drop the link to our directory in the chat if you want to see what else is going on during these 2 weeks. And then we also invite you to follow along with us on social media. We use the handle at YouthMADE Festival on Instagram, and then we also are using at Digital Promise on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram as well. So those are all my YouthMADE Festival announcements. I know that Canoe has a little more information about AI literacy if you would like to learn more about that.
Yeah, thanks, Elise, for sharing. I always love hearing about YouthMade and being involved in any way that I can. So great to highlight these youth projects. But yeah, just to wrap us up and share a little bit more about our AI literacy framework and how you might want to apply it in your context. This is a link to sort of a website that links to our position paper around the framework, which talks through more about the development and the nuance of each component and the practices, has examples, etc. Yeah, and then I'll also link the video that we weren't able to play, which is just a quick overview of the framework. I think just makes it a little bit more digestible. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone for joining, and especially Joao and Renzo, who wasn't able to make it, but for for being willing to showcase your work and share it with a broader audience. So Yeah, great to have you.
Thank you. This was a great opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks everybody.